Okay, guys, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at square roots and cubed roots. Now, what is a square root? Okay, so, sorry, get rid of that here. A square root, ladies and gentlemen, my board is giving me some problems here, so get rid of it. A square root, guys, is basically kind of unreversing an area. So if you know that the area of a square, let's say someone tells you the area of a square is 144 centimeters squared, okay? And you want to know, well, how long is the side length? Well, you kind of have to work backwards. And what you say to yourself, you say, okay, well, what number multiplies to give me 144 times itself? Well, I know, like right here, guys, that 12 times 12 is 144. I know that 12 times 12 is equal to 144. So with that saying, what we really did is we took the square root. So we took the square root of 144, and that gave us the side length. That gives us the side length of the square, which means it's 12, because 12 times 12 is 144. So the first thing you kind of have to know is what a square root is. Now, the symbology here, guys, is a square root looks like a division sign with a check mark on that. You guys see that? Because we don't want to write the square root of 144. Okay, that's a lot of writing here. The square root of 144, that is a lot of writing in green right here. So we don't want to have to do that. So what we want to do is we want to use the symbol. So this is our symbol right here, guys. This is the symbol. This is the symbol. This is the symbol. Okay, the symbol is the square root symbol right here. Okay, so it looks like a check mark with a a division sign with a check mark, and we don't put the answer on top. We put it to the side here. We put it to the side. So that's right here. See that? All right. Now, the next thing you want to do, and you want to build this in your notebook. So I'm talking to my first period class right now, and they actually have this built. So they're just going to go and open their notebooks up and see this page. But if you're watching this video and you don't have this built, you're going to go to your very back page of your notebook in your spiral, and you're going to make this. So what you're going to do first is you're going to make columns. And I'm going to ask my first period class, if you haven't made this yet, I'm going to have Mr. Del Toro walk around and make sure that they have it. And if they don't have it completely made, there's another chance to make it, because you're going to be seeing this a lot this year. And so what you want to do is you want to make 3 columns. You want to make let's do it in different colors here. You want to make a number column in yellow. Then you want a number squared column in green. And then we'll go with blue, well, the square root of the number. So the first thing you want to do is you want to set up a chart. One column that says number, second column that says number squared, and third column that says the square root of the number. Okay, and you absolutely want to write this down into your notebook. Okay, this is very important, and we are going to let you use this on the test. So this is pretty amazing that you could use this on the test, because you don't want to have to memorize all this, guys. Okay, so here we go. So let's start building this chart really quick. All right, so first number we have is the number 1. Okay, we have the number 1. So you're going to write the number 1, and we have 1 squared is equal to 1 times 1, and 1 times 1 equals 1. You guys see that? So working backwards, the square root of 1 equals 1. So that's the first thing you want to have in your chart. This row right here. So make sure you have this row that I just bubblegum highlighted right there. Okay. The next one is 2. So we're going to look at the number 2. Well, 2 squared is equal to 2 times 2, which equals 4. No big deal there. So then we take the square root of 4, and we get 2. And if you don't have this, you're building this chart. If you're watching this on video, my first period, I do want to remind them that they need to have it. Mr. Del Toro is going to be walking around. And if they don't have it in first period, they're going to write it again. So you don't just get to sit there and say, if you don't have it, you have to write it again. Okay, so now we have 3 is our next number. So it's 3 squared is 3 times 3, which equals 9. And the square root of 9 equals 3. Okay, the next one is 4. 4 squared is 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So the square root of 16 is equal to 4. The next one is 5 squared, number 5. 5 times 5 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. And this is just a good review. These are your perfect squares. You're going to be using these a ton, guys. The next one is 6. 6 squared is 6 times 6. And 6 times 6 is 36. So now we can say the square root of 36 is equal to 6. Again, you need to be writing this down. You can use this chart on quizzes that are coming up. If you don't have this chart, then you're going to be really hurting because this is a really important chart. Now, especially when we start getting to the bigger numbers. Okay, I'm going to speed it up a little bit here. 7 squared is 7 times 7. 7 times 7 is 49. The square root of 49 is 7. Next number, 8. 8 squared is 8 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64. The square root of 64 is 8. Number 9. 9 squared is 9 times 9. And 9 times 9 is 81. So now we know the square root of 81 is equal to 9. 10 squared, that's an easy one, right, is 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100. So the square root of 100 is 10. 11 squared is 11 times 11. 11 times 11 is 121. The square root of 121 is 11. 12 squared is 12 times 12. 12 times 12 is 144. That was kind of what the square we looked at. The square root of 144 is 12. Just a good old-fashioned review we're doing here, guys. Right, Mrs. Galler?
Yes.
Now we have 13. Here's where kids start forgetting. A lot of times kids know, hopefully, sometimes 11 is hard, sometimes 12 is hard, but 13 most people don't know. So here's where it really is nice to have your chart. So 13 is 13 squared, which is 13 times 13, which is 169. The square root of 169 is 13. 14 is 14 squared. 14 times 14 is 196. The square root of 196 is 14. 15 is 15 squared. 15 times 15 is 225. The square root of 225 is 15. 16 is 16 squared. 16 times 16 is 256. The square root of 256 is 16. We're going to go up to 25, guys. 17 squared is 17 times 17. That's 289. The square root of 289 is 17. It's funny because Mr. Sansoni has all these memorized. He's like a whole human calculator. 18 is 18 squared. 18 times 18 is 324. The square root of 324 is 18. 19 is 19 squared, which is 19 times 19, which is 361. The square root of 361 is 19. 20 is 20 times 20. A lot of kids know this one. Well, 20 times 20, most kids know that's 400, right? The square root of 400 is 20. 21 is squared is 21 times 21. 21 times 21 is 441. The square root of 441 is 21. 22 is 22 times 22, which is 484. The square root of 484 is 22. 23 is 23 times 23. 23 times 23 is 529. Square root of 529 is 23. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. And 24 is 24 squared, which is 24 times 24, which is 576. So the square root of 576 is equal to 24. And the last one is 25 times 25. 25 times 25 is 625. The square root of 625 is 25. So this is your perfect square chart. You want this in your notebook. You need to have this. You can use it on your quiz. Okay? Now, likewise, guys, I'm going to show you something else. We can also talk about cubes. Now, you can think of a cube, guys, as a 3D square. A cube is like a 3D square. So instead of saying side times side for a square, a volume of a cube is side times side times side, or side to the third power. So what we're going to do now is, and I don't believe my first period has built this chart yet, right? Have we built this chart yet?
No, not yet.
So we're going to build a perfect cube chart. So I'm going to ask my first period right now to go ahead and find the back of your in your folder. You're going to find a new piece of paper that's really close. You probably want to dog ear that, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hopefully go back and I'm going to go back and see if I can pause this, but I never can know how to pause this. Let me see here. Let's see here, upstream. I'm going to pause. If I can't pause it, let's see here. Nope, I'm not going to pause it. I'm just going to keep going. All right. So what I need you guys to do right now is I need you to make a chart. And all my first period is doing this because they haven't done it either. So you're going to make just a 2-column chart or 3-column chart like we just did. So you're going to make a line across, and then you're going to make a line over here. Okay, now we're not going to make nearly as many. This chart's not going to be as big. And let me erase this up here, making a new chart. And so this is what you're doing in your notes if you're watching this for the first time. And you're going to come over here. Everyone's doing this because my third period has not done this yet. I'm going to make another column like this. So I'm making a 3. It's going to look like your perfect square chart. Okay, now at the top, this is going to be your number. Right here, this is going to be your number. Now here, this is going to be your number cubed. Your number cubed. And here, this over here is going to be your cubed root of the number. The cubed root of the number. So I'm going to give you guys a second to go ahead and do that. I'll just pause, give my class a chance to do that. Now, also, when we're talking about a cubed root, here's the symbol. It looks like a check mark, but we need to put a little 3 right here. So to do a cubed root, we're going to put a little 3. So this is the cubed root symbol. Okay? That's the cube root symbol. It looks just like the square root symbol, guys, except it has a 3 on the check mark. And that's how we know. Okay? Now, we're not going to go that very far. I don't think we're going to go super far. I think we're just going to go up to maybe 10. I think we'll just go to 10. Okay? So in our cube root chart. So let's make those numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and everyone's doing this with me, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, you may have already built this in another class, so this is just good to review here. So here we go. Now we're going to do this. So we have 1 cubed, or 1 to the third power, is equal to 1 times 1 times 1. Well, that's easy. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So the cubed root, so remember we have to put a little 3 right here to show it's a cubed root, of 1 is equal to 1. The cubed root of 1 is 1, because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, the next one is 2 cubed. Now these numbers are going to get very big. Notice 2 cubed is not equal to 6. It's a very common mistake. 2 cubed is equal to 2 times 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So the cubed root of 8 equals 2. Okay. The next one is 3. So 3 cubed is equal to 3 times 3 times 3. Well, let's see if I can do this in my head. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. Hopefully I did that right in my head. So 27. So now the cubed root of 27 is equal to 3. Let's do the next one. 4 cubed. 4 cubed is 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 times 4. Let's see here. Well, let me do the highlighter here. 4 times 4 is 16. If my math is right, 16 times 4 is 64. Am I correct on that, Mrs. Galler?
Yep.
Okay. Mrs. Galler's checking me on her calculator. So this is going to be 64. So now we can do the cubed root of 64 equals 4. Keep going. We have 5 cubed. 5 to the third power. 5 to the third power is 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 times 5 is, let's see here, if I can do this in my head right. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. Am I right there, Mrs. Scaller? 125, right? 125. Okay. All right. So the cubed root of 125 is equal to 5. Okay, we're halfway there, guys. All right. Moving on. 6. 6 to the third power. Now, I'm just going to, for the sake of time, I'm just going to ask Mrs. Galler to tell me what 6 times 6 times 6 is.
216.
216. So we're all writing this out. Thank you, Mrs. Galler. So we have the cube root of 216 is equal to 6. 7's next. 7 cubed is equal to 7 times 7 times 7. 7 times 7 times 7 is equal to 7 times 7 times 7 is equal to what, Mrs. Galler?
343.
343. So the cubed root of 343 is equal to 7. Okay? The next one is 8 cubed. 8 cubed is 8 times 8 times 8. Mrs. 512 is the answer. So now we know the cubed root of 512 is 8. Okay? Now, not the last one. 9 cubed is equal to 9 times 9 times 9. 9 times 9 times 9. What's that, Mrs. Galler? 729. 729. So the cubed root of 729 is equal to 9. And the last one, I bet you guys could figure this one out. So we have 10 to the third power. 10 to the third power is 10 times 10 times 10. Mrs. Galler, what's 10 times 10 times 10? 1,000. 3 zeros. So the cubed root of 1,000 equals 10. So now you have a perfect cube chart. I will let my class in first period finish up because we're going to use this chart to answer some questions here. Okay? My class, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to get ready, and we're going to turn to our 1.17. So in your books, if you could turn to page 1.17, I'm going to do that right now. Okay. So now we're going to do a warm-up. And oh, by the way, this just goes in your spiral. Okay, this goes in your spiral. This should be a pretty easy warm-up. We'll do it together. So if you're watching the video, I want you to pause it right now, and then I want you to go ahead and try this on your own. But and you can use your perfect cube and perfect square chart. So what I want you guys to do right now is go ahead, write these in your spiral because this is a warm-up. So warm-ups go in your spiral. So now I need you guys to go ahead and write these down. We're going to go pretty quick with this just because we built our chart. So we're going to go pretty quick. So I'm going to give my first period class here about, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes to just copy them down, and then we'll just do them together. Okay? So just copy them down really quick. First period, I'll give you, if you're watching the video, you can copy them down also. And then we'll go ahead and do these problems together. Okay? So go ahead and do that.
We're taking pictures in your book.
I'm recording right now, so I can't do it. Okay? Sorry.
Okay.
Yep. You can take pictures, but just got to be real quiet, all right? Because I'm recording. Or just, no, never mind. Okay. All right. Okay. So when we're talking about 2 to the second power, or 2 squared, we should say, I always like to write it out. This is 2 times 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. No big deal, right? And guys, this is all on our chart. There's nothing new here. When we get to the fractions, a little different, but this is all on our chart. Well, 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 times 2, we know that is 8, right? Because we have that in our chart. So here's the warm-up. If you have your chart, you can just flip back and forth because it's easy, cheesy, peasy, teasy. Now, here's the deal. You probably know this in your head. 3 squared is just 3 times 3, and 3 times 3 is just simply 9. Okay? Nothing hard here. 3 to the third power is 3 times 3 times 3. And we know in our chart that 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Okay? All right. Next one. 1/4 squared is 1/4 times 1/4. 1/4 times 1/4. See how we're taking 1/4 and we're multiplying it by itself 2 times because there's two. We're repeating the multiplication 2 times. Okay, see that? 2. So we're taking the base, which is 1/4, and we're repeating that multiplication 2 times. All right, so let's see what 1/4 times 1/4. Well, how do we multiply fractions? Well, it's easy. You just go top to top, bottom to bottom. 1 times 1, so we have 1 times 1 over 4 times 4. 1 times 1 is 1, and 4 times 4 is 16. So 1/4 squared is 1 over 16. Okay, let's do 1/4 cubed. 1/4 cubed is 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4. See that? So this is on top. It's 1 times 1 times 1. And on the bottom, it's 4 times 4 times 4. Well, 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. 4 times 4 times 4. Well, and we know that 4 to the third power, that was 64, I believe, right?
Yep.
And so it's 1 over 64. So there's your warm-up. I'll give you a second to copy it down if you don't have it, and then we'll move on to the next problems. Okay? All right, so now what I need you guys to do, I need you to get into problem, these are examples 1 through 4 and 1-7. I need to have someone in my first period class. Can you guys find that? Can someone find that page for me? As soon as you find that page, just tell me what it is. So this is in 1-7 in your notebook. As soon as you can find examples 1 through 4, just let me know what page that's on. You're in 1.17 right now. So if you find that page, just let me know so I can write it down for everybody here. I should know the page. I'm sorry. So my first period is getting out the page. They're getting out their workbook, and they're finding this one right here. Determine the value that makes the equation true.
233.
What is it?
233.
So this is page 233. So if you could get on page 233, I'll let my first period get on page 233 right now. Okay? So get on page 233. Are you on page 233? Are you on page 233? Sean, that's not your assigned seat. You need to go back up to your assigned seat. Oh, no, didn't I switch Isabella?
Yeah,
Isabella, I switched you over there. Sean, you're up there. Yep. Okay. All right. All right. Okay, so we're on page 233. Is everyone on page 233? All right, so here we go. On page 233, again, guys, this is some pretty easy stuff, except we do get some negatives involved here. Well, 7 times, I'm just going to go down here, and I want you guys to write this on page 233. 7 squared is just 7 times 7, guys. But 7 times 7 is equal to 49. 7 times 7 is equal to 49. Okay. Now, negative 7 squared is negative 7 times negative 7. Negative 7 times, now let's think, you got to use your chart here. A negative times a negative. If you take a negative and you multiply it by a negative, that is a positive. That is a positive. So this is going to be, and 7 times 7 is 49. So here's an interesting thing, guys. They have the same answer. 7 squared is the same answer as negative 7 squared. So that's an interesting thing. Those two are the same. Okay, so when you square a number, class, you lose your negative. Now let's look at the cube really quick. 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is equal to 8. Well, what's negative 2 to the third power? And I want you to write this down. Negative 2 to the third power is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. And I'll give my class a second to write this down. Remember, you want to write this down so you kind of know what's going on. Now, I'm going to multiply in pairs here. Well, what's negative 2 times negative 2? Well, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. A negative times a negative is a positive. So this is positive 4 times negative 2. But then we got to multiply this. What's 4 times negative 2? Well, a positive times a negative is a negative. So this answer is going to be negative, and 4 times 2 is 8. So here's an interesting thing. When you raise something to the third power, you do not get the same answer when they're negative and positive. They are different. So that's interesting. When you square something to the second power, you get the same answer whether it's negative or positive. Okay? When you cube it, you actually don't, that doesn't happen. Your negative kind of goes along because 3 negatives make a negative. So that's interesting.